What's up, everybody? So back at it again here. I'm reaching the pinnacle of the body finishing process. Really, there's just a couple little things that I need to touch up that I'm actually going to do in this video in order to get the body fully ready for the final oil finish, to finally seal everything and be good to go. So a couple things that I'm going to do in this one. I have fully let the dye sit and dry on those horns, so you can really see that nice contrast it's providing in those contours. I'm going to sand that back just a little bit to smooth it out, but not take any of the color off optimistically, or at least not much. And I also am going to sand the headstock back just a little bit because I think I want to just lighten it up a tiny bit. I feel like it clashes just a little too much here, so I'm just going to lighten that up with a little bit of sanding, not a ton. And then in a couple of my touch-ups, I've had a couple spots that I've found that, like, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a little light patch there that needs to be touched up. And then same with the back here, that one's a lot more obvious. These are just little spots that I'm gonna have to go back over with a quick little touch of the honey amber, just because the sanding process ended up kind of lightening those up more than I wanted. So that's pretty much what I'm gonna do. And even though it is a sanding process, because it is kind of taking a little more precedence with it being actually like little touch-up things and part of the final process, I am going to go ahead and do that in the video. Hopefully it's not too boring, but I think it's something that I do want to show. And I'm really excited because once I finish this little bit of sanding here, a little bit of touching up, it's going to be time to finally hit it with our finishing oil and really seal it up and start working on getting a nice mirror finish or gloss finish on the body. And I've got some surprises in store that are a little bit different from what I had originally talked about, and some stuff I had shown y'all. Some stuff is going to be changing that I'm actually really excited about. All good things. So yeah, I am going to go ahead and hit up my little station here. And I'll just kind of go over my thought processes as I do this, just so it kind of, you know, it's not just me blindly doing things. You can actually kind of see like what I see, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and how I go about trying to do it, which you know, my goal is that will just, you know, put any missing pieces together on why I'm doing little certain things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my 600 grit paper, and I'm going to go ahead and start sanding the headstock a little bit. I'm using pretty high grit because I don't want to take a ton off, and I also do really want to smooth that headstock out. So 600 grit is going to be great for not only giving me the color change that I want, lightening it up a little bit, but it'll also really smooth it out to be ready for final finishing. So I'm just gonna get after that here. And you can already see it's doing a nice job of lightening that up here. I'm again gonna just do a little bitty bit of it because I really don't want to take a ton off. I just want to lighten it up a little bit. I still want it to be fairly dark. And before it's too late and I forget, I'm gonna go ahead and throw my gloves on because this stuff will start staining my hands otherwise. Okay. So, I'm just gonna use my little spot here to wipe off the extra. And just try to be as uniform as I can. I don't want it to look patchy, which it can, you know, risk doing. All right, I think that's pretty good. Little brush here. I've gotten all the excess dust off. And yeah, I think I like that. That lightening up just gave me a little bit more contrast, which is what I was really looking for. Real quick, I'm gonna hit it with some of my naphtha just to clean off any excess dust from the sanding. And I kind of like the way those contours are a little defined like that. I kind of dig that, I think. So I am gonna go with that. So I've got my naphtha, clean that off. I'm gonna say that that's good where I want it to be. The only thing I still need to do on the headstock, really, honestly, is I need to figure out some kind of logo. I thought about just doing my signature, which is totally an option. I thought about like drawing up a little doodle of some kind. I've come up with a couple little things, but I haven't really made my mind up. I'm gonna do it with a gold Sharpie because I think that'll look really cool, or maybe even like a gold paint marker. I don't know. I'm gonna grab. I think the gold Sharpie will look cool. I think gold Sharpie is the best way to go. And then the only thing I'm gonna have to consider with that and probably have to test or do some research on is that my finishing oil won't have any effect on that marker. So if I do go ahead and do Sharpie and I, you know, either draw or sign it or whatever I decide to do, I don't want to start applying my finish and all of a sudden it goops it all up and screws it up. So I got to figure out. I don't think it should because my Tru Oil is literally, I mean, it's mostly like oil. I mean, like you know, furniture oil. It's like linseed oil, which is a natural oil. but it does have a little bit of a polymer in it that helps it seal and harden. So I don't know if that will do anything to the marker. I'll have to either test that or just research it. Probably do both just to be on the safe side. So yeah, just something I'm considering. So the next thing, now that I've got my headstock trimmed down there, I think I am, just looking at it here, I think I am, since I'm going to be touching up a couple of other little areas, I think I will hit this with just a little bit more honey, like the tiniest little touch, just because these edges did not soak a ton of that dye in, and you can see that they got really exposed here. So I'm going to hit those with just a touch more dye just to kind of make sure those look okay. So that's going to be a thing I'm going to do. All right, so the next one I'm going to do here is go ahead and hit these contours. And really all I'm trying to do is kind of the same thing I did here. Just take away that excess powdery stuff on the top, but keep the darker color. Basically, like I said, you know, the whole point here was to keep those dark contours so that they contrasted real well and, you know, really help shape the face. So I'm, you know, really wanting to just knock a little bit of that top layer of like stuff that's still kind of dusty. Like if you, I don't know if you can see, let me try to maneuver the camera. So if you can kind of see that little brown tint, it's much more noticeable there on the paper, because this is actually gray sandpaper. But you can see all that powder that came off just from doing the headstock. Because it is, you know, that top layer just kind of dries on and kind of cakes up, and so you kind of need to sand it back. So I'm gonna try to do the same thing I did on the headstock here over on my contours there. So far that looks like it's coming okay. Definitely taking a little bit of that off while still keeping my contours intact. So clean that up a little bit there. Get that excess off. And so now I've still got my nice darker contrasting area. Without having a ton of that extra dirt and dusty powder on top of it. So now I'm going to hit the other side, same thing. Thought it might be easier to come from this side, but it's not. Same deal. Cool, so there we go, done deal. Mission accomplished. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I need to do this anyway, but since I've got a couple spots I need to touch up, I'm gonna do it real quick before I hit these spots. I'm going to sand with a super fine 1200 grit just to really smooth everything before I touch up. And then I'm doing such small touch-ups that they won't take long to dry, and so I'm gonna let those dry, and then basically we'll be ready to start the final finishing process, which is actually going to involve me hitting these with a 2000 grit sandpaper, super fine, before I start applying my oil. So this is a 1200 grit sandpaper, so twice as fine as what I was just using. And I'm mostly focusing on the body for this with that 1200 grit. That's the thing that really needs to be the best, like smoothest and most finished. So I'm focusing on that. And again, on the top side here, my touch-up area is going to be just this little edge here. And then I've got a spot on this back side of this horn and these edges here. So, but really, I'm just going to start with my 1200 grit. Basically no pressure, letting just the weight of gravity on my hand do the apply the pressure, because I don't want to take anything off of this. And the goal here is just to really finely smooth everything, not remove anything. I've done so much sanding already that luckily this is not going to take a ton of time. I'm literally just going to hit it with a very quick pass. And then what I'm going to do is save this other side of the paper. And so yeah, so there's my light edge that I need to touch up here. Everything else looks good. Go ahead and hit these up with my naphtha. Get rid of all the sand from that last little pass I did. And then I'm gonna do, and once this dries, I'm gonna do one more pass with the other side of this sandpaper. Clean it again, and then we're going to flip it over to the other side and hit the rest of it with this 1200 grit. Then I'll do my touch-ups. So we're just going to let that sit for a second and dry up. While that's doing that, I'm going to get my dyes all ready. Don't need any more brown, set that aside. It's important to stay hydrated, kids. Cheers. Okay. So let's make, I'm literally just gonna make like the smallest little bit of my honey amber because I really don't need to do it on much area, like just the smallest little bit. So literally it's just gonna be a splash. So a couple splooshes of that. Mix it up. I might have to actually redo this because something really gritty. Yeah, there's something gritty in here. I'm gonna go dump this out and rinse this little container out. Actually, you know what? As I was doing that, I just had a realization. I think that might have actually been because I didn't use denatured alcohol in here. I poured naphtha in there instead, which is not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be diluting this stuff with denatured alcohol. So, hey, I realized that, and that's okay. Here we are. So there we go, a little bit of our denatured alcohol. And our dye. And I was using this as a stir stick. I'm gonna switch to the other side of it. And what I'm gonna do, just thinking about it, just from a design standpoint and the overall look, since I am only doing this for a certain couple of spots, I am gonna try to do some logistical applying it, where basically, instead of just doing this one spot, because if that was to dry a little darker or anything, it'd be a little bit ununiform. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go around all the edge and hit it. That way it just gives me the ability to kind of make sure everything stays uniform. So let's see, touch that to a paper towel and see what our color looks like. Looks good. You know what, I think just to be safe, let's hit it with another little sploosh. Should be nice and good. And again, t-shirt fabric, headband fabric, whatever you want to say. Saturate my cloth. Squeeze out all the excess. And here we go. So I'm kind of hitting all of the outside here with just a little bit. You know what, since I'm using such a small amount, I'm just gonna go ahead and just go ahead and, why not? It's not gonna affect anything. It won't cause me any grief or any issues, so why not? We'll just hit it. We'll just hit the whole thing. Get the whole shebang hit with another nice little application. Just a little bit. It'll dry pretty quickly. Because of, you know, between it being diluted with that alcohol, such a small amount, and the cloth is, I mean, barely, you know, it's just as much liquid as the fabric will hold. It'll dry fast, so. All right. Same thing here. I'm gonna have to be real careful here because I don't want to get this stuff on the guitar nut, and I didn't bother taping. So I'm just gonna be super, super careful. And, yeah, same thing. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit it. At this point, it's not gonna do anything different. It's just gonna kind of make sure that it's nice and dyed there. Get really close. Get that there. Go. Cool. So I'm just gonna give that a couple minutes to dry up. It's not gonna take long at all before I'll be able to swap over and do my touch-ups on the back side there. So I'm gonna pause real quick for y'all, come right back as soon as I've let this sit for a few minutes, and then I can flip it and keep going. All right, so we've sat for a few, check and make sure it's all dry. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip over here. And don't really have many spots that need to be hit here, but just since I kind of did it with everything else, I'm gonna go ahead and hit my main spot here, and then just go ahead and give it all a quick hit with just a little bit of color, just to really make sure we're good. So. And actually, I lied, because I haven't hit this with my 1200 grit sandpaper yet, which I definitely want to do. So I'm glad I remembered that. It's not a huge deal, but it's going to just be beneficial. The more fine sanding I do as I go, the better off I'll be when it's time to actually finish this thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and go here. Got my 1200 grit, and here we go. Again, basically no pressure. Literally just the gravity of my hand holding it on there. get my neck pocket area, the horn spots. I'm super excited. I know I mentioned previously, pretty early on, some little changes are going to happen with some of the original plans I have. Basically, I changed up the color scheme of the hardware a little bit. So the pickups, the knobs, everything y'all had seen previously, I decided to go all chrome after a buddy of mine and I were looking at this and talking about it. Really just thought an all chrome look would look really nice for all the hardware. So bridge, both pickups, the pickup rings, my knobs, my switch, of course my tuners were already chrome, and that was actually kind of what spurred his decision, or his, his inspiration, I guess you would want to say, on that, was due to the fact that my tuners were chrome, and he was like, well, wouldn't the whole thing look really sick with chrome? And he was right. I grabbed I have a set of chrome plated pickups already from a previous kit that I didn't use. I replaced them with another brand. It was actually on my most recent build. It was the pickups from that build. I still had those pickups. They happened to be chrome covered. And so I grabbed those and just kind of dropped them in and really just fell in love with the way it looked, and made the decision from there to go ahead and make that the method I go with, and make that the hardware scheme I went with. So I actually did a few things, which I'll go over in more detail, because there are a few pretty important changes that I made with this. But instead of sending back the old pickups, or not the old pickups, but the first set of, because this kit, I had already had a set of pickups. I showed y'all those in the beginning. It already came with a set. I had ordered a replacement set, which I did show y'all in another video, along with the other hardware I upgraded. And so I didn't send those back. I actually just decided to hang on to them. Figured, screw it, they only cost me 20 something bucks. Not worth the hassle of shipping it all back. And I just figured I'm sure I'll have a need for them or a use for them at some point. So I didn't send them back. Just hung on to them. And ordered, not only did I order a new set of pickups in the chrome hardware styling, but I splurged a little. I spent about, instead of 20 bucks, I spent about 100 something bucks on this set. Did a little research. I mean, I was really honestly focusing on the chrome look, and I wanted something really sleek. And my options were either to buy a set of pickups, or I could have even kept the pickups I had, but then bought like an enclosure that would cover those pickups with chrome. I'd have to go through the process of soldering that to the existing pickups, making some modifications to make sure everything fit, and it kind of just was like, well, that's kind of a pain. I'll have to buy extra stuff anyway. Let me just see what I can find that's already chromed. And I came across a really nice set of pickups that were about 50 bucks each for head and or neck and bridge position pickup. So the full set's just a little over 100 bucks with tax. Super highly rated again. they actually, a big difference in them, and again, I'm going to go over all this stuff in another video once those actually come in. They don't come in until tomorrow, and I'm not really going to talk in depth about that stuff too much anyway until I start wiring the guitar up. But they actually have different magnet types, as opposed to the ceramic magnets in the pickups I was going to use, or the original ones that came with it, or that I replaced. It actually has an alloy of aluminum, nickel, and cobalt, which is a magnetic alloy that is used in a lot of the higher end pickups. So it already was, a little bit higher quality there. And they're actually hand wound instead of machine wound, which it's not saying, because honestly, a machine might be able to wind a pickup better than a human, but the hand wound pickups tend to be a little better quality. That's one of the reasons you end up paying more for them. Aside from the different magnet types, they're hand wound. They usually just have a better sound. So again, I'm kind of just rambling because I don't have anything else to talk about right now. So I bought replacement pickup rings, so the square shaped ring that's going to go over the pickup. I got those pickups. They're super nice looking. I think they're going to sound really good, and I'm excited about that. I also ordered knobs. Again, I showed y'all the knobs I had already ordered. I ended up just, again, hung on to those and ordered a set of chromed out ones. I ordered a little button, or a little plastic end piece to go over the switch in place of the black one. And the bridge was already chrome, so we're good there. My tuners were already chrome. So anyway, so that's kind of the big design decision that changed a little bit, is that the pickups and all the hardware are going to be chromed out. And I think it's going to add like a whole extra look of luxury to this thing. Like, I think it's just going to really, really just be absolutely beautiful. I threw those, like I said, I threw those other pickups in. And actually today, I got in everything but the new pickups. So I got the pickup rings and I got the knobs and stuff in, and I just kind of set everything in place. Like, obviously not screwing anything in or whatever, but just set the chrome pickups I do have. I set those in there, set the pickup rings on it, the knobs on it, just to kind of get a minimal look of what it was gonna really look like. And it looks killer. It's gonna look so good. That chrome hardware is just gonna make everything just pop and shine. It's gonna be bright and shiny, and it's gonna be killer. So all right, so I'm just waiting for my naphtha to dry for just a little bit. I went ahead and did my 1200 grit sandpapering. Everything's real nice and smooth. I'm just waiting for that to finish drying, and then I'll go ahead and take my dye mixture, hit my touch-ups, and hit my, just like, again, kind of hit everything one more time. I actually really like the neck. I don't think it needs any. I'm gonna leave it like that. I don't want to influence its look at all. And also, I would have to go back and retape the fretboard, which I'm gonna have to do anyway, but I don't want to have to do it right now when it's unnecessary, because I'd have to untape it again before I start the other process anyway. So I think I'm just gonna hit the back of the body real quick. The sides are good. It's really just mainly this spot here, and so I'm just gonna hit that and let it dry. So the naphtha looks like it's pretty much good. Just to be safe, I grabbed me a completely dry and clean microfiber cloth. So here's my really nice clean cloth. I'm just gonna hit over real quick, and yeah, it's good. So not seeing any moisture or anything. So here we go. Got my dye. and my denatured alcohol, saturate the cloth, squeeze out all the extra, and here we go. So really, again, this little top spot up here was the main thing, but since I'm hitting it anyway, I am just going to go ahead and hit this. Another thing that I don't think I talked about, I don't even know if I linked it or not. I'll have to go back and check my other video. I was just thinking about that while I was hitting this real quick because of this electronics cavity here. It made me think of this. I don't remember if I talked about it or mentioned it or even if I linked it as one of the products I had ordered, because I ordered it kind of later on. What it is conductive shielding paint, and what this is for is it gets painted inside of the electronics cavity on the underside of the cavity lid, which is optional. I do it, and the inside the pickup pockets. So this shielding paint goes inside the pickup cutouts, both of them, and goes inside of the electronics cavity. And what it does, it's a conductive shielding paint. Basically, it minimizes the noise and like buzz and feedback that you might get from wires. And not that I'm doing, you know, I did get nice shielded wiring. I am getting a nicer set of pickups, but shielding those pockets and that cavity will just really help ensure that it's as clean and quiet sounding as possible with it, so it'll eliminate any excess buzz or noise from the electronics. And so yeah, I got that. If I didn't link it already, I'll go back and check, but if I didn't link it already, I'll go back and link to the one that I grabbed. There's several varieties. Some people all and actually I've done this on a different guitar. My last two, actually, I used tape with copper back, so like basically adhesive copper tape, and it does the same thing. It provides a conductive material lining those areas where those electronics are to help keep the buzz and the feedback or noise contained within that field. But I went with paint this time. Just, I don't know, 10, 12 bucks on Amazon, I don't remember, but I'll find it and I'll link it. And that won't go on until later. It needs to be the last thing I do before assembling the guitar, because I don't want any of my oil finish getting in those areas, and basically, if it covers over those spots or gets in there, it'll make the conductive paint not be doing its job properly. So that conductive paint needs to be the top layer of everything. So once I've completely sealed it, oiled it, all of that, I will come back with my shielding paint, and that shielding paint will be the last thing I do before we actually build it. Put all the hardware, wire up the electronics. So yeah, we're at the spot where there's nothing else I can do for a few minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and there's a couple things I decided, by the way, before I end this one. I bought two different types of oils for finishing, and I was kind of debating what I wanted to do, how I wanted to use them. I think what I decided is I'm not going to use this linseed furniture finishing oil on this one. I actually have this is my second guitar that I built. I never really put an official finish on the wood for it. It's actually just still the bare stain. Like, I did use a sealing stain on the wood for the neck on it. So the neck and the back on it are like a nice dark brown. I don't have that guitar here. It's at my studio with my bandmates. It's the main one I've been playing for writing and recording right now. But it is a nice dark rich brown on the back and body and neck, or back and sides of the body and the neck. And I used a stain that did have some sealing to it, so it was a sealing stain, like I said, but I did not put any sort of actual finish or oil or anything over that. It's just still the bare wood with that stain on it. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use this stuff on that, and I'll make a video on that where I'll bring that guitar back here. I will sand it a little bit so that it's ready for the oil and gets nice and smooth, and then I will from there I'll use this stuff on that wood. I'll use this to finish that and see how it goes. Because I decided that I don't really think I want to mix these two. I don't know how nicely they'll play together, and I'd rather not risk deciding that, or not deciding, but learning that on this. So I think I'm just going to use the one, which is going to be the Tru Oil gunstock oil. This stuff, I've seen several guitar makers use it, and it just does a great job. You can use it on the entire body, and it has it's polymerized, so it will seal, and I can also build up layers, sand, shine, buff, wax, etc., and get everything as glossy as I want it. So I've decided that I'm going to go with that Tru Oil gunstock finish as the only finish I use on this one, and see what happens with that linseed oil, that other wood finishing oil. I'll check it out in another video with my other guitar, because like I said, that guitar needs some kind of oil finish on that body anyways. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video, let my last little application of dye mixture set and dry, and then we're gonna be ready to hit it with our first coat of oil finish. I will have to tape the fretboard off. I don't want to get this finishing oil on the fretboard, so I'm going to tape the fretboard off nice and good. I'll probably start the next video with that already done, because there's no reason for y'all to just watch me apply some tape. I'm just going to cover the sides and top of the fretboard so that they don't get this oil on it. And then I will start the process of finishing this bad boy up. So I'm going to stop it for now. We'll come back whenever this has sat for a bit and dried. Alright guys, so I have let everything dry. As mentioned, I did go ahead and tape up the fretboard. Didn't bother making y'all watch out on that one. The only thing I need to do that I'm gonna do so I can film it is I'm gonna go ahead and hit the top with a very light 1200 grit sanding again, and then wipe off with naphtha just to make sure the surface is as good and ready as it can be. And then it's gonna be go time. It's gonna be interesting trying to figure out how this oil finish works, because I've never used an oil-based finish before. But I've done a lot of research, watched a lot of videos, and read some stuff. the main guitar builder that I follow on YouTube, his name's Ben Crow. He is actually out of the UK and has a custom guitar shop out in the UK. He's just absolutely stellar, and I kind of wanted to order the guitar finishing oil he uses because he actually has one that they sell, his company sells. It's basically, you know, the stuff that he uses on a lot of their guitar builds. I've seen him use it, and I thought about, you know, ordering it from him or from them, from his company, and using it. But aside from the fact that the bottle itself is like 25 bucks, shipping from the UK was going to be like another 30, and so I elected not to go that route. But you know, the Tru Oil I've seen used anyway. I've seen it used plenty. It's going to do the same thing. And what I did do though is I read and watched some of Ben Crow's tips on using guitar finishing oils, and he talks about how he recommends to how, like, his recommended application method. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. His recommended application method, he goes over and talks about what he suggests. And interestingly enough, he actually recommends applying the oil instead of like with a cloth or a paper towel or whatever most people would recommend. He recommends doing it with a really fine grit sandpaper. Basically, his thought process is that it helps polish and smooth the surface as you're applying the oil. And so what I'll be doing is applying with, I'm going to go with my 2000 grit because it's the highest I've got. I'm going to apply the oil with 2000 grit. I'm going to apply the finishing oil with 2000 grit, and then use just plain dry paper towels to wipe off the excess. That's basically what it says to do, is sand, apply with sandpaper the main coat, wipe off the excess and let it dry, and then that's how you build up your coats. I've just I'm gonna go ahead and hit this with my naphtha. Because I did hit it with one final sanding. So with one final sanding means one final polish or cleaning with the naphtha. Alright, so we're clean. We're looking real good as far as smoothness goes. So I am going to just chill for just a quick second while I'm waiting for that little naphtha application to dry out. And I'm going to stop the video while that happens because I'm going to go take a restroom break and stuff. So I'll be right back. All right, guys. So it has sat, the naphtha has flashed off. I went over it real quick with just a dry paper towel just to make sure we're good. So yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. A little nervous on this part because this is essentially a point of no return. because once this stuff starts going on, we are sealing the wood, and there's, you know, that's all she wrote. We're sealing the wood, and we're sealing in all these colors and everything we've done. All that's getting done. So here we go. I opened up my Tru Oil, poked just a tiny little hole in the top of it, the little blister thingy, seal thing. So I don't want to pour a whole bunch of it out. Trying to just kind of get my area clean and free of other crap, so I'm not bothered with anything here. Again, I'm going to be applying the oil with 2000 grit sandpaper, which, like I said, is going to help me. You know, actually, he said he actually used 1200 grit as a reference in the video that the article that I read. He actually specifically mentions using he says a super fine grit, and actually references 1200 as the recommended. Since this is the first application, I think I'm actually going to go, so my thought process here is you really want to go with higher grits as you apply coats. You want to up your grit so that you're making a smoother and smoother and ultimately shinier and shinier surface. So what I'm going to do for the very first coat, maybe even the second coat, I will go ahead and use 1200 grit instead of jumping straight up to the 2000. But what I'll probably do is go, I'm going to say 1, maybe 2 coats with the 1200 grit, which again, it's still super fine, but since the guy mentions it specifically, my thought process is that I should start there, and I can up my grit as I go to, you know, do it the way I'm thinking I should. Well, no more procrastinating. Here we go. So I'm just gonna drip a little bit on in a few random spots. And then just kind of start spreading it around. I'll kind of gauge what more I need as I go here. And it's not a huge deal. Obviously I'm not gonna try to use like excess. I don't want to use a ton, but it's not a huge deal to use an okay amount here, because I just put a little bit too much there. But because I am gonna be wiping away excess here, so it's not a huge deal to be applying it just kind of loosely, liberally. So here we go. And I'm actually gonna go ahead, because it's a little more than I wanted there, go ahead and hit my paper towel on it just real fast. Get some of this, I didn't want it to puddle up, so really what I'm trying to avoid is any spots where it's kind of like dripping or puddling. I definitely don't want that. I don't want it to be overly saturated with this stuff, so I'm just gonna hit this with this paper towel real quick. But oh my goodness, I can already see how cool that looks. Okay, so making sure everything looks like it's getting hit. Just hit a little bit on this paper directly. I need a couple of different spots to be covered. So I am gonna make sure that it looks even. I've got it applied everywhere. Again, like I said, I applied it with my sandpaper as recommended. Looks like I've pretty well got a good coat on there. And man, I can already tell what a good job that's doing. It looks so cool already. So I'm just gonna go ahead and hit a lot of these spots again. I just, really want to make sure, because this stuff's gonna kind of drink this up. I just want to make sure I am getting it in all the spots that I really need to. Because it's gonna just kind of drink into this wood for at least the first coat. Just kind of hitting everywhere. Getting it all up in all the little spots there. And I think that's where I'm going to stop. There are certainly going to be imperfections. But the good thing is the way this is going to start working is once I get my first coating on there and wipe all the excess off and let it soak in, that's really what's going to seal the wood really nicely and kind of just lock everything into place. And then I can start from there. It's basically going to act as a sanding sealer base. I can now go and really finely sand over this first layer of Tru Oil and go, go as clean and polished as I need, and really make sure there's not any like streaking or imperfections and stuff like that. So that's gonna come, as I go through the process, applying the sandpaper, smoothing it out between coats. But yeah, it looks like I've got everything nicely saturated. It's, it already looks like it's soaked in and sealing really nicely. You can really see just how bold and nice that finish stands out. That's the quilted maple look now is just, it's finally looking real bold like it's supposed to. I'm gonna go ahead and grab this and just give it a better view. So you can now see how it's just gotten so much more. That might be upside down. Hold on. Why don't you do sideways? So you can just see it's already kind of glossy, but that look is just really standing out the way we want it to. And yeah, I think I'm gonna end up being real happy with this method here. So the kicker here is this stuff recommends taking a full day between coats. So at this point, the process of the videos is gonna start to get real slow because I'm basically gonna have to, what I plan on doing, since I'm gonna end up doing the most coats on the face, the front face, I just wanted to see what it would look like on the front face. I'm actually going to switch tomorrow. I'm gonna let this sit for 24 hours. And then tomorrow, I'm gonna do the coats that are gonna go on the back of the neck and the back of and sides of the body, because I will realistically probably only do 1 or 2 coats with that. So since it's gonna be just a few coats, I can get it over with quicker. I'm gonna hit that with a couple of coats. So tomorrow one coat on the back of the body and the sides of the body and the neck. The next day, sand that a little bit, get it nice and fine, and then same thing, come back and back of the neck and body, one more coat, nice and fine, make sure it's polished, make sure it's good. Then I'll start back on the body. But I mean, just looking at it here, I don't think it's gonna take a ton of coats to get the look I want. It's more just gonna be about sanding smoothly in between those coats, and then just kind of figuring out the best method to apply, which again, I'm probably gonna step up to my 2000 grit sandpaper for those applications. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at on this. At this point, I just gotta wait, come back and put some more on it tomorrow, and go from there. So thanks for watching, guys.